All we're trying to do is keep people in the song for a couple bars, and then we've got to have another idea, keep them in for 2, 3, or 4 more bars, and you're just constantly doing that. You know, we'll spend like 6.5 hours talking about the reverb on a certain hi-hat hit, but ultimately it's pointing to how can we keep someone interested in staying in the song, listening to it longer, hopefully get them to the end of the song, and hopefully listen to it again or listen to something else by the artist, or hopefully buy a ticket or a shirt or whatever. That is really what this is all about. I'm Tony Hoffer. I'm a record producer, mixer, and multi-instrumentalist, known for working with Beck, Air, Phoenix, M83, Fits in the Tantrums, Chromeo, and welcome to my studio. Prior to this space, I was working in commercial studios. I would lock out a commercial studio for 6 or 7 years. A lot of the studios that I was using were cool, but the control rooms were quite a bit smaller, and I needed a larger space where I could have a bunch of people in the room. We could have synthesizers, lots of guitar pedals, or lots of things set up, always ready to go. It's a great workflow for me, because somebody can have an idea, like, oh, I want to throw some drums down real quick on something. It's like, okay, good. Go out there, and they can play something, we can grab it, we can come back in, we can put some samples in with it. It's very easy to get ideas down. This is a Sequential Circuits drum machine. I love this thing. I've used it on a lot of records. It's all over a Phoenix album I did called Alphabetical. It's pretty much like the main drum sound. These sounds, like they're authentic, but they're very drum machine-y sounding, which is kind of cool. This is an SP1200. It's a sampler that's also kind of like a drum machine. This was a big part of the early days of hip hop. This and the MPC-60. I started off doing a lot of sampling years ago, and this is one of the things that I would use to create songs or beats or elements to put into tracks to add atmosphere. These little floppy disks, which you don't see much. I like to work fast, really fast, and by doing so, I'm able to make mistakes quicker and then get on to solving them quicker. So I can kind of try a lot more things in shorter periods of time. With mixing, for example, I'll mix the song maybe 85% of the way there, and then I stop, I'll go on to something else, another song. Then I'll come in the next day, I'll listen with fresh ears, have something to write on or a laptop to type into quickly on that first fresh listen the next day. That's like the best listen you'll get. So all those little nitpicky things will definitely come out, and I'll make note of them, tweak them in 20 minutes, half hour, whatever, and then it's probably done. This is my ARP 2600. This is a semi-modular synth. It's semi-modular in that some things are already pre-patched internally. It's pre-wired. So you literally can turn it on and start making sounds. You don't need to use any cables. It's super fat, has amazing low end, and it's also really cool for just processing sounds. So I'll run drum machines or vocals or guitars into the input here. As an example, I'll take the SP1200 and just run it into the input. Kind of what it does. This is a Juno 60, favorite polyphonic synths, love it a lot. Super warm, amazing filter. Traditionally, I'll buy something on eBay, hold it for a few years, use it, and then ditch it, buy something else. So I'm constantly cycling through things. I've used them enough on productions, and I just didn't want to use them anymore. So I just get rid of them, get new things in, try things out. Every project that I work on, I'm learning new things. And whatever I did on the previous project, whatever tricks I did and whatever revelations I had on that, none of that will work on the next project. That's how it is. And I'm okay with that. I suppose if I weren't always learning new things, then it would be a boring game for me. When I started out, I was doing a lot of sampling, and I think I had 5 samplers at the time actually, which was complete madness, but you needed them. When I was working with Beck on the first record that I worked on with him was Midnight Vultures, I would literally bring like, 1 or 2 crates, which is about this much, over to the studio to his house, and we would go through them, find little bits and start putting things together, and that's pretty much how Midnight Vultures came about. This would be one of the grittier spring reverbs. This is a little Roland spring reverb that I like. Did a record with Depeche Mode, and also I did another record with the singer of Depeche Mode, Dave Gahan. It's all over. I use it a lot on Dave's vocals. M83, I used it quite a bit. Things that have a good attack to it, I'll sometimes run it through there. Vocals, percussion, drum stuff, guitar. A lot of my gear, I actually do distort the input quite a bit. I'm using it for grit, but also for maybe the thing that it's actually meant to be used for. I stay inspired by listening to music, playing music. That actually inspires me. So I'm constantly listening to new music and older music. Often I'm maybe referencing things, whether it's new or old, I'm referencing things for the current project I'm working on. Maybe I'm referencing a snare sound from something from a long time ago, but with a kick that's a real modern kick, that's something very current. So I'm always digging around looking for ideas. This is my tracking room. I've got this kind of blanketing tent situation going on here, and that is because I love very dry drums, as dry as they possibly can be, basically like very 70s dead drums. I love that. This is actually a stereo mic. It's a VP88. You put close mics on the drums and okay, good. Snare sounds great, super isolated. Kick sounds very isolated. It doesn't really sound like a drum kit. But I always found that when I would stand in front of the drums, basically right here, everything sounded great. And then I'd go back in and things sounded too clear or whatever. So I always put a stereo mic here or mono mic or both and capture the drums that way. And often this will be a big part of the drum sound. I'm a guitar player and I have a lot of guitars. They're kind of all scattered around. Basically, as far as I go about using them, I'll plug them into pedals, amps. I use a Kemper as well, which is basically a box that has all of my amps kind of profiled in it. These are some amps that I use for guitar, but I'll run other things through them. 6162, this is from 1958, and it sounds amazing. It's kind of a quieter amp, bright, clean, gritty thing. Roland JC120, that is my favorite amp. That's what I started with. Guitar is my main instrument. I'm much stronger at guitar than keyboard, and so I have this guitar made by U-Rock that is a MIDI guitar. It is the most incredible invention ever made because I can plug this into my computer and open up like Exhale, get a cool patch, and make these amazing chords on guitar that I wouldn't be able to do on a keyboard. I'm gonna run this through Signal now. The thing that I would tell someone that's up and coming is to just be a really good listener. Be able to listen to people and hear what their needs and wants are. So, if someone has an idea for an album or an idea for a certain part of a song, an element they want to put in, try to duplicate in your mind what they're saying and see why they're saying it. And you'll get on quite well. People will want to hire you again if you can communicate with them and understand them and they feel like they're being heard. Just relying on one thing, like just plugins or just outboard gear or whatever, I don't think is smart. I think you just you need to use it all, or at least that's what's worked for me. Having diversity in how you work is probably good.